Hotep, how's everybody doing? Hey, this is Michael Imhotep, founder of the African History Network, host of the African History Network show. I'm a talk show host, researcher, lecturer, and writer, and historian. So it is Wednesday, December 4th, 2019, and we are live. So everybody share this broadcast on your Facebook page. Invite your friends to tune in also. I'm going to drop a lot of information on you in this broadcast. Then African-American business owners, post the name of your business here on the thread of the broadcast. We'll let you know how you can advertise with the African History Network. We have a special promotion going on for a few more days. We have a few spots left. Okay. All right. So I want to deal with two main topics here, right? On Tuesday, December 3rd, 2019, California Junior Senator, Senator Kamala Harris announced that she was dropping out of the 2020 presidential presidential race. Okay. There were a lot of articles written about that. She put out a video explaining why she was dropping out, but also, and then she sent an email to her supporters as well. So I want to talk about that and get deeper into this, because a lot of people are missing why she is dropping out. Okay. And a lot of people just mischaracterizing a whole lot of things dealing with her. If you saw some of my previous broadcasts, you know, I on my show, the African History Network show, I did an extensive segment, and it's on YouTube, where I broke it down, and I broke down her attacks on Joe Biden, and I went through and showed how those attacks were false and provided evidence as well for that. Okay. So we'll talk about Senator Kamala Harris. And in general, you know, I like her, but she ran a poor campaign, for one. And we know that the article that came out a few days ago, and New York Times had it, Washington Post had it, about criticism of her campaign from one of the former members of her campaign, talking about they've never seen a campaign like this. They've never seen people treated with the type of disrespect they were treated with within the campaign, things like this. So her campaign was falling apart. So there were a number of different problems here. Okay. And then the other thing is you had some African Americans who were saying that she did not have a Black agenda. Okay. So how's everybody doing? I'm not sure where you're getting your information from, but obviously you didn't go to her website, because that's false. And once again, this is an example how false information influences people's decisions. Your thoughts create feelings. Your feelings create actions and behaviors. Your actions and behaviors create results. And this is an example of what happens when people have bad information. When you have bad information, you make stupid ass decisions. All right. So I'm going to break this stuff down. And then also I'm going to deal with the impeachment report that was released on Tuesday, December 3rd, 2019 by Democrats. Okay. By Democrats from the House Intelligence Committee. Okay. We're going to deal with that impeachment report, because that impeachment report is deep, and it's 300 pages. Okay. I've already gone through and started reading it, and let me pin the information here at the top of the broadcast. How's everybody doing? I've gone through, I've printed up and printed up the executive summary. This is the front page of it, the Trump Ukraine impeachment inquiry report. And more information came out here. This is a 300-page report. More information came out here. We see that we see things that are incriminating towards ranking member of the House Intelligence Committee, Devin Nunes. We see he had conversations with Rudy Giuliani, and we see that he's going back and forth to the White House. This report is devastating for Trump, for Rudy Giuliani, for Devin Nunes. So I'm going to deal with that as well. Okay. How's everybody doing? All right. Ricky, Obama did not have a Black agenda, but actually, if you study President Obama's policies, they did positively impact African Americans. And this is something that a lot of people don't talk about. Now, now I've said before, a Black agenda is not what the candidates present to us. A Black agenda is what we present to the candidates, okay? A lot of people never read this document. Every city I lecture in, I ask them, how many people have read this? Progress of the African American Community during the Obama administration. Where'd I get this from? Whitehouse.gov. Was Whitehouse.gov official website of the White House? Is it still there? Yes, it's still there at whitehouse.gov. This was up during his administration. We don't read. But a Black agenda is not what the candidates present to us, is what we present to the candidates. People still don't understand this. Now, August of 2013, you had 60 civil rights organizations that presented an African-American agenda to the Obama administration, but that was in the second term. That should have happened in the first term, okay? Because the LGBT community, they presented a 54-page agenda within the first 60 days of President Obama's first term. We should have done the same thing. They did present one towards the beginning of the second term, but a lot of people learned from that you had to present an agenda. Some people still haven't learned from that, okay? So let's jump into this. Let's go to first, let's look at the article here from, and I posted some of these articles. Let's look at the article from NBCnews.com. Senator Kamala Harris drops out of 2020 presidential race. The California Democrat who had announced her bid for the White House in January said she doesn't have the money to continue. She doesn't have the money to continue. So this is extremely important. It is even more important for African-American candidates. If it's a candidate that you like, if it's a candidate that you support, it's not just enough to vote for them. You have to donate to their campaign. Because what people don't seem to understand is that you can't, the first caucus is not until February 2020. That's Iowa. You have to have money to be able to make it to February 2020. You have to have money to pay your staffers. You have to have money to travel. You have to travel throughout Iowa, to travel throughout the country, wherever you're campaigning. That costs money. You have to have money to pay at your campaign headquarters. You got to pay for utilities, okay? You got to pay the electricity, pay for water, pay for heat. You got to pay for supplies. It costs money to finance a campaign. Also, you have to pay for campaign ads. She hadn't ran campaign ads in months because she didn't have the money to run campaign ads. So this is not specifically dealing with Kamala Harris. This is for any candidate, but especially an African-American candidate when they're running for president, running for U.S. Senate, something like this. It takes money to do that. It's not just the votes, okay? So when I saw the article came out, New York Times, Washington Post had it, Yahoo News, dealing with the turmoil in her campaign a few days ago, I knew, okay, pretty much looking at the polls, because I look at the polls every day. I study politics on a daily basis. I don't just study history. I also study national politics. MSNBC is on right now. I watch MSNBC 6 to 10 hours a day, do research all day. It's on right now. It's just muted. So looking at the polls, I knew that she was going to be dropping out soon. Cory Booker is probably next. Cory Booker is probably next to drop out. So Senator Kamala Harris of California dropped out of the Democratic presidential race on Tuesday, December 3rd, 2019, ending a once promising campaign that began with an explosion of enthusiasm but fizzled out, okay? An aide told NBC News that the senator notified her staff Tuesday that she was dropping out, and the campaign emailed the news to supporters soon after. In the email, Senator Kamala Harris said her campaign, quote, simply doesn't have the financial resources we need to continue, end quote. It wasn't low polling, even though she was polling low, because it was hard for her to find her lane. See, she announced she was running, I think it was February of 2019. And then later, after she announced, Joe Biden announced that he was running. When Joe Biden announced, he immediately went to the top. and he sucked a lot of the air, sucked a lot of the energy out of other people's campaigns. Okay, he eclipsed a lot of other people. So it wasn't the low polls, it was she didn't have the money. She said, quote, "I'm not a billionaire. I can't fund my own campaign." So Michael Bloomberg has spent, I think it's about $34 million on campaign ads. Okay. And he spent more money in about a week than she spent in her entire campaign. But he's a billionaire. Okay. He's a multi-billionaire. He's a real billionaire, not like this fake billionaire named Trump. Okay. This traitor in chief, this Manchurian candidate, the first Russian president of the United States. No, Michael Bloomberg is a real billionaire. And he said, now Trump lied and said he was going to self-finance, and he didn't self-finance. One of his early backers was Robert Mercer. Okay. And research Robert Mercer, Mercer. Robert Mercer's anti-civil rights, billionaire hedge fund manager. Robert Mercer is the main financier for Breitbart News. And Stephen K. Bannon, who used to run Breitbart and then went over to be the campaign, to run Trump's campaign after Paul Manafort resigned. And Paul Manafort's in prison right now, right? And Rudy Giuliani will probably end up in prison as well, okay? He's going to be in prison next to Michael Cohen and Paul Manafort and Roger Stone's on his way to prison. Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, Trump's former national security advisor, he's on his way to prison as well. But so when we look at this, we see that Michael Bloomberg is a real billionaire, unlike Trump. Michael Bloomberg said that he's going to self-finance. He's not going to ask for donations. He's going to finance this himself. Then you have Tim Steyer. Tim Steyer is another billionaire. Okay, so you got two billionaires you're going to have two billionaires running. You have two billionaires running now. I don't know if Michael Bloomberg is going to make it to the next. I don't know if he's going to register high enough in enough polls to be on stage. Okay, I don't know yet. But she said, "I'm not a billionaire. I can't fund my own campaign." And she said, quote, "And as the campaign has gone on, it's become harder and harder to raise money. We need to compete, raise the money. We need to compete. In good faith, I can't tell you, my supporters and volunteers, that I have a path forward if I don't believe I do," end quote. So one of the criticisms, well, there have been a number of criticisms. Okay. One is that it appeared that she was trying to be all things to all people. Okay. She was trying to run as a progressive and run as a moderate as well. She couldn't really find her niche. You have to be able to find your path, your lane, what you represent. Okay. We see that Bernie Sanders is a democratic socialist. Okay, so his policies reflect that. We see Elizabeth Warren is referred to as a progressive. We see that Buttigieg is more moderate, but he is he's more unique because he has experience as a mayor, even though it's a small town. But because he is part of the LGBT community, that gives him something unique about him. Okay. Now he is able to raise money, but with the African American community, he's polling about 0.1%. So it's going to be hard to. It's going to be interesting to see how long Buttigieg is going to be able to stay in the race. Okay, and he's still formulating policies, but he has a quote unquote African American agenda. Is the Frederick Douglass plan. Okay. Kamala Harris had a Black agenda. A lot of people didn't know this. Okay, so there were a few things. Let me show you this quickly here. Let's look at this, because I know a lot of people said she didn't have a Black agenda. So all that means is either you don't read or you can't read, or you don't do research. So let's look at this. Let's go to her website, KamalaHarris.org. KamalaHarris.org. How's everybody doing? Okay. We should have this on. We got Anthony. Bloomberg is anti-labor union. Yeah. Bloomberg. See, Bloomberg has a lot of challenges. Hey, Martisha Patterson, how you doing? African-American business owners, post the name of your business here on the thread of the broadcast. And also be sure to visit pattersonplan17.com, pattersonplan17.com. You know, the new 2020 is coming up. A lot of people want to get their financial house in order. You may have seen me interview certified financial planner Martisha Patterson. And we discussed the student loan crisis, right? So visit pattersonplans17.com. All right, for more information about getting your financial house in order. Okay, so here is Kamala Harris official website, kamalaharris.org, okay? And pitch in to elect Kamala Harris, no corporate PACs, just people like you. Okay, tough, principle, fearless. Okay, so let's go down. She talks about Shirley Chisholm, Day of Action. Let's go to, okay, our agenda, right? Kamala Harris knows the election is about American families and what wakes them up in the middle of the night and keeps them up late at the kitchen table trying to make it all work. That's why she's proposed an agenda with solutions that will have a direct and immediate effect on people's lives, paychecks, and healthcare. Okay, so let's look at this, right? Affordable housing, children, climate change, communities of color, criminal justice reform, etc. Now, one of the mistakes, and Roland Martin pointed this out, because Roland did a really good segment on the show on Tuesday, December 3rd, 2019, breaking this down. Roland Martin Unfiltered. You know, we share the broadcast of Roland Martin Unfiltered here on the African History Network. People were criticizing her because she's a former prosecutor, okay, in Attorney General, State of California, former prosecutor in California. She announced she was running in February 2019. She did not release a criminal justice reform plan until September 2019. She should have released that right out the gate, okay? But let's look at this, communities of color, okay? So a lot of people say, oh, she didn't have a black agenda, things like this. Now, when she was on the Tom Joyner Morning Show months ago, right after she announced she was running, she said that all candidates should have a black agenda. She talked about some of her policies that would help the African-American community, dealing with housing, dealing with education, things like this, right? So let's look at this. Okay, communities of color, for the people means for all people. Kamala Harris stood up for the people. She knows that our diversity is our greatest strength, and that until all of us are equal, none of us are equal. Justice is on the ballot. Anytime we deny justice to someone because of their race, their religion, or the language they speak, we deny justice to all people. That's why President Kamala will fight to lift up historically disadvantaged and marginalized communities. This means making bold investments in communities of color and clearing the way onto critical on-ramps to economic opportunity like capital to start a business. It means fighting to protect every American's fundamental right to vote. It means reforming our criminal justice system, which is deeply flawed and infected with bias. It means reopening our doors to refugees and asylum seekers of every race and religion. That includes Black immigrants coming from, because when we look at migrants coming through Mexico, it's not just Mexicans. There's an increasing number of Africans coming from the Congo, coming from Angola, coming from Cameroon, and they're coming through Central America, coming through Mexico. And you have other Black immigrants as well. And they're the first ones to be deported, even if they're here legally. When you go research this, the Black immigrants are the first ones to be deported, even if they're here legally. So it means reopening our doors to refugee and asylum seekers of every race and religion, taking executive action to create a path to citizenship for dreamers, and fighting to enact 21st century immigration reform that lives up to our values. Okay, because under the Trump administration, the focus is not on white undocumented immigrants. They don't care about white undocumented immigrants. They're attacking this. This is the fear of the browning of America. Okay, this is the fear of the browning of America, and the fear that by 2043, white people will not have a majority population in this country. That's what this attack. That's what this attack on quote Mexicans and Hispanics is about, but also on Black immigrants. So you definitely need immigration reform, because we need to increase the number of Black immigrants that are allowed to come to this country. But also you got to focus on white undocumented immigrants, okay? Because see, you have white undocumented immigrants that come through the Canadian border. I live 4 minutes away from the Canadian border. I live in downtown Detroit. Go look at a map of the U.S.-Canadian border. The Canadian border goes all across the northern United States. The Canadian border goes all across northern United States. The focus is not on white undocumented immigrants. I wonder why. So it means combating racial disparities in our healthcare system and delivering culturally competent care and resources resources patients need. We need a president who will do everything in her power to level the playing field and stand up for equal rights and opportunities for all, and remind Americans that we have so much more in common than what separates us. Kamala will be that president. Related policies, lifting up Native American communities, action for Asian Pacific Islander Americans, standing up for Black America. Read Kamala's plan to stand up for Black America. Wait a second. You mean Senator Kamala Harris had a Black agenda? So if people told you she didn't have one, how did you go verify that? Or did you just listen to Simple Simon-ass people on social media who have no clue what they're talking about? See, I can prove to you what I'm talking about. Kamala's plan to stand up for Black America. We must right what is wrong and write the next chapter for Black Americans. So Kamala has fought for racial justice her entire career. She knows that we can't have racial justice without dismantling the institutionalized injustices and biases Black Americans still face in our country, including in our economy, housing, and our education, healthcare, and criminal justice systems. As president, Kamala will fight to restore justice in America and build an economy that works for everyone. She'll make investments that create opportunities for Black entrepreneurs to bring great ideas into the marketplace and grow the small business engine of our economy. She'll make sure that more resources go to minority-owned small businesses and low-income neighborhoods, and that housing dollars actually go to building affordable units. And because pipelines to economic opportunity begin with education, she'll continue her lifelong commitment to HBCUs and other minority-serving institutions by making attendance to these landmark institutions debt-free for students and investing over $60 billion in programs that teach and train the next generation of leaders of color. So if you've been following my broadcast dealing with, I just did one, we dealt with the crushing student loan debt crisis, $1.6 trillion in student loan debts, about 44 million Americans. African Americans are being crushed by student loan debt. We see that African-American women on average about $30,400 in student loan debt when they graduate from a four-year institution, but also it negatively impacts African-American men as well when they graduate from college. We see that the median household net worth for a white household, based upon 2016 numbers, $171,000 compared to $17,000 median household net worth. Median household net worth $171,000 for a white family, $17,000 for an African American family. So many African Americans who go to college, if they can't get Pell Grants, because they're low income, if they can't get Pell Grants, which you don't have to pay back, many of them have to take out student loans. So they take out student loans from the federal government, okay, the guaranteed student loans, or they may get student loans from a private institution, from their credit union, from their bank, things like this, right? Well, African-American women make 61 cents for every dollar that the average white male makes. So when they graduate from college, even when they get PhDs, they're making 61 cents for every dollar that the average white male makes. So they're making less money, but in general, they have more college debt. So many African Americans are being crushed by student loan debt. Okay, so we can't secure a healthy and sustainable future without standing up for low income and communities of color who shoulder a heavier burden of environmental harms and resulting health impacts than white and wealthy communities. Kamala will tackle environmental injustices head on so Black families can breathe clean air and drink clean water. So if you look at the, I'm going through now reading the 2019, reading articles about the 2019 census report, okay? okay? Because there's a census report that comes out every year in September, right? When you look at Washington Post had an article that deals with the deterioration in the quality of air under the Trump administration. And this has to do with the fact that there have been 85 regulations. There have been 85 regulations from the Obama administration and previous administrations that Trump has either reversed or has weakened, okay? Let me see if we can pull this up here. This deals with air, okay, Washington Post has this article. Air pollution is getting worse and data show more people are dying. Air pollution is getting worse and data show more people are dying. Eroding air quality was linked to 10,000 additional US deaths over a 2-year period. This is October 23rd, 2019. How many of y'all saw this article? How many of y'all know that there's an annual census report that comes out every September? Go to census.gov. There have been numerous articles written about it, the increase in income inequality. And there's going to be a lot of articles. If you tune into my show Sunday night, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the African History Network show, I'm going to get deeper into some of this information. Air pollution worsened in the United States in 2017 and 2018. New data shows a reversal after years of sustained improvement with significant implications for public health. In 2018 alone, eroding air quality was linked to nearly 10,000 additional deaths in the US relative to the 2016 benchmark, the year in which small particle pollution reached a 2-decade low, according to researchers at Carnegie Mellon University. Let me come back to this here just a second. Okay, the study focuses on fine, F-I-N-E, fine particle air pollution known as PM 2.5, which is of particular concern to regulators and public health experts because its microscopic size means it can be inhaled and absorbed into the bloodstream. It can be, because of its microscopic size, and can be inhaled and absorbed into the bloodstream. Its ill effects are only now starting to be understood. The Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, which was created by Richard Nixon, and Donald Trump is trying to gut the EPA. The EPA didn't even have a regulatory standard for it until 1997. Okay, let's see here. And so we skip further down. An increase in wildfires is another. Okay, let's see. Let's look at the factors. Overall concentration of the pollutant has risen about 5.5% since 2016. And the Carnegie Mellon researchers identified several reasons for this, including rising natural gas and people doing more driving. The corresponding rise in emissions from those sources more than offsets the falling levels being realized by the decline in coal being burned by electricity generating plants in the United States. An increase in wildfires is another factor because they release large amounts of smoke and fine particles into the atmosphere. Big fires, particularly in California in 2018, played a role in driving up total national air pollution. Removing those fires from the analysis lessens the increase in pollution in 2017 and 2018, but does not eliminate it, the researchers write. A final potential driver of rising pollution is the rollback of regulatory enforcement by the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency. Clean Air Act enforcement actions failed in the first 2 years of the Trump administration. Clean Air Act enforcement actions failed in the first 2 years of the Trump administration, although the researchers note that the trend toward lax enforcement started well before 2017. But we see that the lax enforcement increased under the Trump administration. Last year, EPA Administrator Andrew Wheeler disbanded the expert academic panel that reviewed and advised the agency on its standards for small particle air pollution. In its place, the administration has hired consultants with links to the fossil fuel, pharmaceutical, and tobacco industries. This is under Trump. The disbanded academic panel convened independently this year and is calling on the agency to impose stricter regulations to combat the pollutants. Okay, you can read the rest of this, all right? But you get the gist. This is how elections have consequences. Politics impacts every aspect of your life, from the air, from the water you drink, to the air you breathe, to the food you eat. This is what I was explaining to people in 2016. The presidential election in 2016 was not about one person versus another person. No, that means you don't understand politics. That means you don't understand how this impacts the quality of life for the next 20, 25, 30 years. Trump has gotten 157 federal judges approved to the federal bench, which is a lifetime appointment, as of November 1st, 2019. He's nominated 1/5 of the federal judges. This is, and because, so this is a Republican initiative. This is the main thing that the U.S. Senate is doing. U.S. Senate is not passing bills. I just posted an article a few days ago from Vox.com that deals with how Democrats in the House of Representatives have passed almost 400 pieces of legislation since January 3rd, 2019, when they took control of the House of Representatives, okay? Overwhelming majority of those bills die in the U.S. Senate because they're being blocked by Senator Mitch McConnell and Republicans in the Senate, because Republicans control the U.S. Senate. This is why Senator Mitch McConnell has got to go. So the same people who address animosity and were happy that Senator Kamala Harris dropped out the race, right? Those same people should be redirecting that animosity towards Senator Mitch McConnell. Because you can't get any of these bills passed in the Senate because of him. Also, Senator Mitch McConnell said that reparations is dead on arrival in the U.S. Senate. The Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell of Kentucky controls the Senate. No bill can come to the Senate floor for debate. No bill can come up for a vote without his approval. He's already said reparations is dead on arrival in the U.S. Senate. He's up for re-election in 2020. So African Americans need to organize with African Americans in Kentucky and other people in Kentucky, because there's a lot of white people in Kentucky that don't like him. He has about a 37, 40% approval rating. He has a pretty low approval rating in Kentucky. Moscow Mitch McConnell, son of a Mitch. He's got to go. You can't get these bills passed in the Senate. And then before they could go to the president's desk to be signed into law, they have to pass both chambers of commerce. The lower chamber, the House of Representatives, the upper chamber, the U.S. Senate. Okay, we don't understand any of this stuff because I listen to what people say. I can tell what they haven't read. We don't understand any of this. Many of us. Okay, let me post the link here to this article from Washington Post. Air pollution is getting worse and data show more people are dying. All right, this is just from October 23rd, 2019. This is just a sample of the articles I had because I read Washington Post and New York Times every day. Then if we look at this article here from New York Times, and you know, I do a presentation, 6 Principles of Political Self-Defense, understanding how laws and policies impact the economic conditions of African Americans, but they impact more than just economics. Let's see here. This was dealing with 85 regulations, 85 environmental rules. New York Times. 85 environmental rules being rolled back under Trump. This was last updated September 12, 2019. 85 environmental rules being rolled back under Trump. Donald Trump has made eliminating federal regulations a priority. His administration, with help from Republicans in Congress, has often targeted environmental rules to rules it sees as burdensome to the fossil fuel industry and other big businesses. A New York Times analysis based on research from Harvard Law School, Columbia Law School, and other sources counts more than 80 environmental rules and regulations on the way out under Trump. Okay, so let me pull this up on another computer because I'm monitoring this on the second computer. So this is from the New York Times. Let's see here. Okay, 85 environmental rules being rolled back under Trump. So a New York Times analysis based on research from Harvard Law School, Columbia Law School, and other sources counts more than 80 environmental rules, and regulations on the way out under Donald Trump. Our list represents 2 types of policy changes: rules that were officially reversed and rollbacks still in progress. Rules that were officially reversed and rollbacks still in progress. The Trump administration has released an aggressive schedule to try to finalize many of these rollbacks this year, okay? There have been 53 rollbacks completed, okay? 32 rollbacks in process for a total of 85 rollbacks. Rollbacks completed, we see them dealing with air pollution and emissions, drilling and extraction. So there have been, let's bring this up here. Let me turn on the screen share so you can see this quickly here. Then I'm going to get back to Kamala Harris' Black Agenda, but this ties in to what we were talking about. She talked about quality air pollution. Quality air has deteriorated under Trump. Most people don't know this, okay? 53 rollbacks, air pollution and emissions, 10 rollbacks, drilling and extraction, 9, infrastructure and planning, 12, dealing with animals, 9, toxic substances and safety, 4, water pollution, 5. We see Flint, Michigan, that was inflicted by the Republican governor, Governor Snyder, previous governor, who, thank God, he was term limited. He needs to be in prison. Okay, Governor Snyder, who imposed the emergency manager over Flint, Michigan. All right, and we see that what happened was in Flint, Flint wanted to have their own water source. They were getting water from Detroit water source, which, based upon the quality of water across the U.S., Detroit is one of the best water sources. Okay, at least at that time. So what they did was they stopped getting water from the Detroit water source, and they started getting water from the Flint River temporarily. Well, people in Flint knew the water from the Flint River was toxic. All they had to do was use an anti-corrosive agent, and this would have made the water drinkable by today's standards. I wouldn't drink it because I drink bottled water, but still. So what happened was, all of the pipes in Flint, Michigan are not lead. It's about 50% of the pipes are lead pipes. Inside the lead pipes is a protective coating that keeps the lead from leaching into the water. The water coming from the Flint River source was 19 times more corrosive. The water coming from the Flint River source was 19 times more corrosive than the water coming from the Detroit River source. All they had to do was to use an anti-corrosive agent, which cost somewhere between about $100 to $150 a day to treat the water. But they were too cheap to do this. This is under the emergency manager. They were too cheap to do this. So what happened? When this corrosive water that's 19 times more corrosive than the Detroit water source, when this went through the lead pipes, it stripped away the protective coating inside the lead pipes, which allowed the lead to leach into the water. All they had to do under Governor Snyder and his emergency manager, all they had to do was spend about $100 to $150 a day to properly treat the water so it wouldn't be so corrosive. And they wouldn't have the problem that they're having now in Flint, Michigan. Under that Republican governor, Governor Snyder, they put profits over people. This is an example. They put profits over people. This is an example how elections have consequences. All right. All right. So, okay, let's go back to this here. Because a lot of people don't know this information. This is why this is so important. Toxic substances and safety, 4 rollbacks completed. Water pollution, 5 rollbacks completed. Okay, and 4 for other. Then you got 32 rollbacks in process. Okay, for a total of 85. Check out this article, New York Times. 85 environmental rules being rolled back under Trump. This was last updated September 12, 2019. New York Times. Okay, elections have consequences. This is what people don't understand. Okay, so let's go back to this one here, dealing with Kamala Harris. Let's look at the page for her Black Agenda. Because unfortunately, I hear a lot of people talking, and I could tell they haven't been to the candidates' websites, because the information is right there on the website. All right. And I remember when she was on the Tom Jones Morning Show right after she announced, and she talked about policies that she would put in place to benefit the African American community as well. That interview's on YouTube. I think she was interviewed by Roland Martin. That interview's on YouTube. You can go listen to it. Okay. Looking at this breaking news story. Okay. Georgia Governor Brian Kemp, who stole the election from Stacey Abrams, names Kelly Loeffler to fill Senate seat and move that could set up a clash with Trump. I hope it does set up a clash with Trump. Hope they knock each other out. Because the ranking member of the House Judiciary Committee from Georgia, he wanted that Senate seat. Okay. All right. So let's continue here. How's everybody doing? We got Keith, Gigi, Anthony, Michael Long, just a few people watching. Rob, everybody share this broadcast on your Facebook page. Invite your friends to tune in also. Then I'll get to the impeachment report. I'll get to this impeachment report shortly, okay? I'll give you some information on this as well, because this impeachment report is devastating. I haven't read all of its 300 pages. I read enough to know it's devastating for Trump. All right, so let's go back to this here. Okay, so this is on Kamala Harris' website, dealing with her Black agenda that a lot of people didn't know exists because they don't do research. We can't secure a healthy and sustainable future without standing up for low income and communities of color who shoulder a heavier burden of environmental harms and resulting health impacts than white and wealthy communities. Kamala will tackle environmental injustices head on so Black families can breathe clean air and drink clean water. Kamala will also pass Medicare for all. Now she had to back away from pushing Medicare for all. Medicare for all is problematic. I'm telling you, and this is what Senator Elizabeth Warren's plan, Senator Elizabeth Warren's plan for Medicare for all, and then having to actually explain it and how much it costs and all that stuff. And her estimates were much higher than what the experts were saying. You saw in the poll that came out after she released that, her polling was cut in half. Medicare for all is problematic, and because see, on the surface it sounds good, but then when people find out that they have to give up their doctor, and Medicare for all means you take away private health insurance, and that means everybody gets Medicare, and you have to take away the doctor, and they start hearing about how much this stuff is going to cost. They say, whoa, hold on, wait a second now. And the other thing is that has to pass the U.S. Senate. You're going to need 60 votes in the Senate, which means you're going to need some votes from Republicans. Even the Democrats take back control of the U.S. Senate, and maybe they have 51, 52, 53 Democrats in the Senate. You would still need Republican votes, and they're not going to vote for that, boo. The Republicans ain't voting for Medicare for all. So this is what people have to understand. When you look at certain policies that are being proposed, what policies are executive orders? And what policies have to go through Congress? You're not going to get 60 votes. You're not going to get 60 votes out of the Senate for Medicare for all. That's not going to happen because you're going to need Republicans to vote for it. That ain't happening. Kamala will also pass Medicare for all, combat the Black maternal mortality crisis, protect reproductive rights, and close the boyfriend loophole to prevent dating partners convicted of domestic violence from purchasing guns. And Kamala will fight for end-to-end reform of our deeply flawed, biased criminal justice system, which incarcerates African Americans at more than 5 times the rate of white Americans. She'll drive an end to the era of mass incarceration and ensure that those returning from prison and jail can successfully re-enter their communities. Now, keep in mind, mass incarceration did not start with the '94 crime bill. Because when I hear people say that, and I can tell you don't understand history, mass incarceration goes back to June 17th, 1971, when Richard Nixon declared his war on drugs. I got a whole lecture where I break this stuff down. That goes back to Nixon. Then, and because you see the rise in the prison population going back to the 70s. And then in 73, Governor Nelson D. Rockefeller, governor of New York, instituted the Rockefeller drug laws. That's where mandatory minimums come from. That started with Governor Nelson D. Rockefeller in 1973 in New York. States started passing longer, harsher sentences in the 70s. Then it went to the 80s in Ronald Reagan and his war on drugs in 1982, prior to crack cocaine being an epidemic. Then in 86, you have the 86, the federal law that passed Congress dealing with, it was drugs, and that laid the foundation for the school to prison pipeline. That was 86, okay? Then it goes to the 80s, goes to the early 90s. Then you had a 94 crime bill, which was federal law, not state law. It was federal law, not state law. Mass incarceration did not start there. It added to mass incarceration, but mass incarceration was well underway. That goes back to Nixon. And keep in mind, Nixon ran in 1968 and won on the platform of law and order. Law and order. Law and order means protect white people, lock up African Americans. Because Nixon was a backlash to the civil rights movement, the Black Power movement, the rebellions that were taking place all across the country. In 1967 alone, 1967 was known as the Long Hot Summer. USA Today has a good article dealing with the rebellion in Newark, New Jersey in 67. And it talks about the Long Hot Summer. There were 159 violent uprisings in this country in 1967 alone. Now, all of them were not on the level of a Newark, New Jersey or Detroit, because the Detroit rebellion happened in 67 as well, July 23rd, 1967, July 23rd to July 27th, 67. But so Nixon was a backlash to all that, backlash to the civil rights movement, affirmative action, all different types of things like that, because affirmative action was implemented September 1965. Nixon was a backlash to all that. And he appealed to a lot of white people because he's talking about law and order. Okay, which means we're going to lock these people up. Okay, so standing side by side with communities across the country, Kamala will work every day to right wrongs and write the next chapter of justice and prosperity for Black Americans. Related policies. Oh, she had policies to impact the African American community? That's not what I heard on social media. Closing the home ownership gap, closing the opportunity gap, health justice for Black communities. I thought she didn't have a Black agenda. Kamala's plan for criminal justice reform. Kamala's Medicare for all, a climate plan for the people, voting rights in our democracy. Kamala's plan for action on gun violence. Okay, then you click here, see more policies. I don't have time to get into each one of these. I'll give you the link here. You can read this stuff for yourself. Okay, click right here. All right, where were we? Okay, but you get the idea. You can read the rest. We posted that link there. That's at kamalaharris.org, okay? And what's interesting is when she was interviewed on the Tom Journal Morning Show, this is back in February. One, she said she would have a Black agenda. Two, she said all of the candidates should have a Black agenda, not just the Black ones. She said all of the candidates should have a Black agenda, not just the Black ones. I agree. All of them should have one. Okay, because see, I look at Joe Biden's website, even though a lot of his policies will positively impact the African-American community. When I looked at his website last night and this morning, as of yet, I don't see an actual Black agenda. She has one. She talks about standing up for Black Americans, just a Black agenda. He does have policies there to do with education, criminal justice reform, things like this, that will positively impact the African-American agenda. Now, at the same time, it's true, he got in months after she did. That is true. He got in, I think it was June. So was it? what did he announce? He got in after her. So he probably will have a black agenda. He should, because Cedric Richmond, former chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, is his co-chair of his campaign. So I'm pretty sure he will have a black agenda. But he did get in after her. But, you know, I think he should have one now. But at the same time, the other thing is, I've said this before, a black agenda is not what the candidates present to us. That's what we present to the candidates. So a lot of these organizations, same group of 60 civil rights organizations that presented a black agenda to President Obama in August of 2013, and they announced it in January 2013, they should present one to all the candidates, not just Joe Biden, all the candidates, and present one to Donald Trump as well. Now, the Congressional Black Caucus, their executive leadership in March of 2017 presented a 125-page agenda to the, okay, so it was about April 25th, 2019, Joe Biden announced he was running. April 20th, yes, this, because after I thought about it, I was thinking it was late April, yeah. About April 25th, he announced, okay. They presented a 125-page agenda to the Trump administration called We Have a Lot to Lose, 21st Century Solutions for Black Families, okay? And it's an excellent agenda they presented. Now, I think they should talk about it more because a lot of people don't know it exists, okay? That's one of the, now they do have it at their website, cbc.house.gov. With the Congressional Black Caucus, they do a lot more than people know that they do. They do a lot more than they get credit for. But one problem is that they don't get the type of coverage I think they should get in white controlled media like MSNBC, even though they'll interview a few members of the CBC. I think they should interview them more because members of the Congressional Black Caucus, they're 54, 55 because Elijah Cummings passed away. Half of their constituents are non-African Americans. A lot of people don't know this. They represent probably about 80 million, a little more than 80 million people. There are 48 million African Americans, but all African Americans don't have members of the CBC as their representatives. So half of their constituents are non-African Americans. I think they should get more coverage in mainstream media, white control media, one, but two, we don't have it now, especially now that News One Now is not on TV One. We don't have a African American news program, okay? Especially one that we control. All right, now I'm talking about on TV. You got Roland Martin Unfiltered, yes, and he interviews members of the Congressional Black Caucus. But I'm talking about on TV, so you can reach more people. Hopefully, reach more people. I know Roland has a huge following on social media. So you have that type of communication, but when they are interviewed, when I see interviews with Representative Hakeem Jeffries, Representative Karen Bass, when I see Representative Brenda Lawrence, okay, my congresswoman, 14th Congressional District here in Detroit, they never talk about the 125-page agenda they presented to the Trump administration, because that also is an agenda for us to take elements from and help form an agenda at a local level for our communities and for our organizations, local level, state level, to push these issues. Okay, so there's part of it is lack of coverage, oftentimes, with the exception of Roland, because he covers them, but a lack of coverage. But two, it's a communication issue. They should be talking about this. They should talk about this. They should talk about that agenda, because most people don't know it exists. Okay. And I think the CBC should present a agenda as well. I'm not sure they can present one to all the candidates, but they should, maybe they could, I don't know. Maybe they could, but they should have on their website, they should have a list of concerns that all candidates need to address, okay? Not just the Black candidates. The other thing that this deals with is that in many ways, Kamala Harris was held to a higher standard in many ways than other candidates are being held to. Okay. Sexism is one of them, but I ain't just talking about sexism. I'm talking about when you demand a Black agenda from her, but you don't demand one from Joe Biden. You don't demand one from Elizabeth Warren. You don't demand one from Amy Klobuchar. You don't demand one, but Buttigieg has one, the Frederick Douglass plan. You don't demand a Black agenda from Bernie Sanders. Okay, what I'm saying is all the candidates should be held to the same standard. All the candidates should be held to the same standard, whether they're Black, white, or Republican. We should be demanding an African-American agenda. We should be presenting one, but also asking, how will your policies impact the African-American community? Even for Republicans. Governor Bill Weld is running, Republican. He was getting coverage. Now he's not getting enough coverage, a lot of coverage on MSNBC. Okay. And this is not just for president. This is for U.S. House of Representatives. All 435 seats in the U.S. House of Representatives will be up in 2020. This is for U.S. Senate as well. Okay. So we have to have one standard that we hold everybody to, not a higher standard for a Black woman. Okay. And you hold and you ask from her things that you don't ask from other candidates. That's unfair. Regardless of whether you like it or not, that's unfair. All right, let's continue here. What do we do? Okay, so I showed you that, Kamala, showed you the Black agenda. How you doing, Thema? Okay, Michael Long, how you doing, Michael? We have to put political pressure on them to get what we want. Absolutely, absolutely. All right, so let me give you this link here. This is, so first of all, people should go to cbc.house.gov. Okay, we have a lot to lose. Okay, it's called We Have a Lot to Lose, 21st Century Solutions for Black Families. cbc.house.gov is the official website of the Congressional Black Caucus, right? And I'll give you the link here. This is the PDF to We Have a Lot to Lose, because I have all this stuff bookmarked, okay? Hey, if you like this type of information, you ain't gonna get this type of information from other places. Roland Martin is probably one of the only other people you're gonna get this type of information from. You get some of it from Joanne Reed, and I like Joy, but because she's on MSNBC, because of that platform, it doesn't just like focus on the African American community, even though she does, the best she can, because she don't control her show. I understand that. But you can donate to the African History Network. PayPal.me/the AHN show. PayPal.me/the AHN show. Also at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Click on the yellow donate button. Okay, this helps us to keep doing the research, finance the research, pay the bills, stay on the air, finance our Sunday night radio show that I do on 9:10 a.m. Superstation WFDF. Helps to cover expenses when I have to travel out of town. Also, African American business owners, you can advertise with the African History Network. PayPal.me/the AHN show. PayPal.me/the AHN show. Okay, and I'm just sorry. Email me at customerservice@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Customerservice@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. We have a special promotion running for a couple more days. Buy 1 month, get 2 free. Okay. And visit workingwithjohnray.com, workingwithjohnray.com. So 2020 is coming up. A lot of people want to get their financial house in order as well. And Working with John Ray has a unique concept called income shifting. Okay. His company is My Econ, and income shifting allows you to take your money back from those who are taking it from you. And that's thousands of dollars a year saved. Plus, they show you how to earn more money as well. All right. Income shifting is a group of financial strategies that allow John Ray to go from living from paycheck to paycheck to investing and not focusing on when the next check is coming. Visit his website, workingwithjohnray.com, workingwithjohnray.com for more information. Okay, let's continue here. And let's see, also my latest DVD bundle pack and digital download bundle pack is available right now. The Black Migrations 1619 to 2019 bundle pack includes 6 of my latest presentations. Okay, and therefore we also have a special promotion going on at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, for a little while longer because somebody was trying to process it this morning and coupon code expired. So I extended it for a little while longer. Get 40% off orders of $100 or more. Okay, use coupon code AHN20 off 19. AHN20 off 19. Let's post this here. All right, so I think that's going for another 24 hours. I think I set that up for. Okay, so let's continue. Now, the other thing is, if Kamala Harris got the nomination, would I vote for Kamala as opposed to Trump? You damn right I vote for Kamala as opposed to Trump. Trump got to go. I told you back in I warned you in 2016 about Donald Trump. People didn't want to listen. Everything I said is coming true. And in January 2017, I predicted that Donald Trump would be impeached. This is before Democrats took back control of the House of Representatives with the November 2018 midterm election. In January 2017, I was on my radio show, and I was on Cliff Russell's radio show here in Detroit, 910 AM Superstation, WFDF. And I predicted that Donald Trump would be impeached. Okay. And I think that Trump is going to be forced to resign from office, just as Richard Nixon was forced to resign from office August 8th, 1974. All right. When all the information came out and Nixon had to turn over the Nixon tapes after it went to the U.S. Supreme Court, and there was an 8-0 ruling, he had to turn over the Nixon tapes, and you had leading Senate Republicans that went to the White House and they told Nixon, we've seen the evidence against you, and if it goes to a trial in the U.S. Senate, you're going to be found guilty. Okay. And they advised him to resign. I think the same thing's going to happen to Trump, because this right here on Trump is devastating. All right, let's continue. Let me see. Let me go to this clip here. I had this clip queued up, and we went to, this is dealing with Kamala Harris. Let's go to, then I want to get to this article from Janelle Ross, African-American woman dealing with this, dealing with Kamala. And because a lot of people are saying that, well, okay, now you're not going to have any people of color on the debate stage for the next debate that takes place later this month. Things like this. But this is a money game. Okay. If you like a candidate, you know, Beyonce said, if you like it, you should have put a ring on it. If you like a candidate, you need to donate. That's all it is to it. Okay. This is from NBCnews.com. Let's go to this clip here. Let's turn this up.
Her campaign with more than 20,000 supporters in Oakland. A rising Democratic star.
Let's do this!
Kamala Harris, the telegenic California senator, launched her campaign with more than 20,000 supporters in Oakland. A rising Democratic star.
Let's do this!
Kamala Harris, the telegenic California senator and former state attorney general, rocketing to the top tier of a crowded field by taking on Joe Biden in the first debate.
There was a little girl in California who was part of the second class to integrate her public schools. And she was bused to school every day. And that little girl was me.
Do you feel that you've toppled the front runner?
I don't know. I'll leave that to the pundits.
But a month later, stumbling over the cost of her health care plan.
You can't beat President Trump with double talk on this plan.
By mid-October, she was behind in the money race and failing to connect to African Americans, polling only 5% with Black voters recently compared to 43% for Biden. By the last debate, vying for attention.
I have more people supporting me in the Black community. The only Black African-American woman that ever been elected to the United States Senate.
No,
my point
is
is
true. The other one is here.
Tonight, praise from the other Democrats.
She is a first-rate intellect, a first-rate candidate, and it's a real competitor.
Sometimes campaigns have a way of tearing people apart or breaking down friendships. For us, it's brought us closer.
Andrea joins us now. Andrea, it's worth noting that Harris dropped out today, but not before issuing a parting shot about who's left.
Indeed. She said in the end she could not compete with two billionaires last year. Two billionaires now in the race, Tom Steyer and Mike Bloomberg. They have unlimited campaign money.
Okay, so that's from NBC News. That's from NBC Nightly News. That's from NBC Nightly News. Check out the article. Senator Kamala Harris drops out of 2020 presidential race. So a couple things there. One of the things that backfired on her, I dealt with this on my show, and I have it on my YouTube channel when I go in depth and break this down step by step. So in the clip here, when Joe Biden said he had the support of the only African-American female senator, he was talking about Senator Carol Moseley Braun. He meant to say the first African-American female senator. He knows that Kamala Harris is the second one because Joe Biden endorsed Kamala Harris and he helped her campaign in 2016 when she ran for the U.S. Senate. Some people may not know this. President Barack Obama, sitting president, Joe Biden, sitting vice president, they both endorsed Kamala Harris. So he knows that he meant to say first African-American senator, Senator Carol Moseley Braun. Second, I got to find the clip here because it's on YouTube. I'll give it to you. I want you to go watch this. When she went after Joe Biden on busing, right? People started doing more research. And what happened was the issue was over forced busing. And this is the issue that Biden made. It was over forced busing. He was against forced busing. Well, in 1973, there was a Gallup poll done, and the overwhelming majority of African Americans were against forced busing. That didn't come up in the conversation. Then after that, on July 3rd, 2019, the article came out from the Associated Press. Kamala Harris was on the campaign trail and she said busing should be considered but not mandated. Busing should be considered but not mandated. So you saying busing should not be forced? Well, what were you attacking Biden on then? Then she was interviewed July 4th, 2019 by Von Hilliard on MSNBC. And she said the same thing. So then that caused people to start doing research because I see the characterization and the conversation, the discussion between them was mischaracterized on MSNBC when they had a lot of the pundits and a lot of the black talking heads. And I had to call MSNBC out. I did it on my show and I did it on Twitter. And one of them I had to call out was Zerlina Maxwell, okay, who's on Sirius XM. I had to call her out because also when they were talking about Biden and his comment about working with segregationists, what 99% of the time, what they didn't tell you is he was talking about working with Democrats who were segregationists. Because when he started in the U.S. Senate, and I think it was 1973, Senator James Eastland of Mississippi, who was known as the mouth of the white South, who was a virulent white supremacist, in his office. I have a picture of him in his office. It's in an article from, I think, Politico. And I'll post these links here when we're done for these articles because you need to read this stuff. Senator James Eastland sitting there in his office. He has the Confederate battle flag on a flagpole behind him. He was known as the mouth of the white South. But Senator James Eastland was also the chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee. So Biden was talking about Senator James Eastland from Georgia, from Mississippi, and Senator Herman Talmadge from Georgia. These are the guys running the Senate when he gets there. If you want to get anything done on the Senate Judiciary Committee, you got to work with the chairman. So when in his full statements that a lot of people want to mischaracterize, he was talking about being able to work with people and get bills passed, people who he disagreed with, vehemently disagreed with on their stances. But you still got to work with these people. So Cedric Richmond, who is the former chair of the Congressional Black, former spokesperson for the Congressional Black Caucus, and he's a representative from Ohio, and he's Joe Biden's co-chair for his campaign. Cedric Richmond, when he was interviewed July 29th by Reverend Al Sharpton on MSNBC, and Reverend Al Sharpton acted like he had his amnesia and doesn't remember that interview. Cedric Richmond said, well, when we look at the First Step Act that Trump likes to talk about in helping black people, and it's only been about 4,000 people released from the first because of the First Step Act. Okay, majority of them been African Americans, but that's federal law, not state law. He said that those in the Congressional Black Caucus, he said Senator Kamala Harris, in the U.S. Senate, Senator Cory Booker, they said we had to work with Donald Trump to get this bill signed into law. He said none of us get attacked for having to work with Trump. And he said we all disagree with Trump, don't like him, etc. He said we don't get attacked for having to work with Trump to get this bill passed to benefit constituents. Okay, so he said, why is Joe Biden attacked for working with the guys who were one, Democrats, two, these are the guys running the Senate when he gets there. So I'm gonna give you the let me see here. I'm gonna give you the clip here to where I go through, break this stuff down. It's on YouTube. Okay, yeah, Joe Biden apologized and said backtracks. Okay, here you go. I did this July 7th, 2019. Joe Biden apologizes. Senator Kamala Harris backtracks on busing comments, okay? When she backtracked, when she had to backtrack on her busing comments, and there was an article from the Associated Press that led to this, more people started doing research on her. It wasn't just being a former prosecutor. It wasn't just that. Her attack on Joe Biden was disingenuous if you actually understand the merits of it and you actually understand the full context of it. And that backfired on her. Okay. Okay, so I just posted that here. And that's on my YouTube channel. That segment from the African History Network show. And I go through and take you step by step. I deal with the interview that Reverend Al Sharpton did June 23rd with Joe Biden. And Joe Biden goes through and explains all this stuff, his statements about the working with the segregationists who were Democrats. Okay, even on MSNBC, I had to call them out because you know, when you have Dr. Jason Johnson, Zelina Maxwell, Tiffany Cross, all these black talking heads, they keep talking about Biden working with working segregationists. 99% of the time, they don't say he was working with Democrats. Okay, so this is not a defense of Biden. This is a defense of the truth and accurate reporting. Watch that clip because I go through, take you step by step, and I show you how the whole way this thing was being presented by MSNBC, Reverend Al Sharpton, Senator Cory Booker, all of them was wrong. It was disingenuous. A lot of people don't know this though. So if they and see, we have to be careful. This is why we need mediums like this. This is why we need Roland Martin. This is why we need more platforms like this to really provide the evidence so people are not deceived. Okay. He said she tried to play the race card. Arthur said she tried to play the race card and it backfired. Yeah. Now, so here's the thing. When she said at that second debate, and she said that Kamala Harris said she wanted to talk about race. Okay. I thought she was going to talk about her Black agenda because when she was on the Tom Joyner Morning Show back in February, right after she announced, she said she would have a Black agenda. And she talked about policies Sybil Wilkes asked her about this. She talked about policies that would impact the African-American community. So I thought she was going to talk about her Black agenda on the debate stage. Okay. But she wanted to talk about a 40-year-old busing program that most African-Americans were against. That didn't make any sense. A 40-year-old busing program that most African-Americans were against back in 73 and are still against forced busing. And then two, I did another one, it was another segment of my show, and it's on YouTube. And it's called Kamala Harris is Black, but it only seems like when it's convenient. Okay? So this is not, it wasn't an attack on Kamala Harris. I wasn't calling her name, things like this, but it's a critique. All right. So one of the things that Roland Martin pointed out is about Kamala and Cory Booker, and he's correct on this, is that they should have spent the past 2 years, 3 years that they've been in the Senate, they should have spent that time reaching out to the African-American community, building a foundation, building a strong foundation so that the African-American community knows who they are. They know who Biden is. And Biden, and one thing about Biden, Biden has relationships with leadership all throughout the African-American community. NAACP, National Urban League, Congressional Black Caucus, everybody. Biden knows everybody. They should have spent the past 2 or 3 years laying a foundation, reaching out to the African-American community during African-American radio shows, the Tom Joyner Morning Show. Not just after you announce, but consistently. Tom Joyner Morning Show, Ricky Smiley Show, Russ Parr, okay? Do Willie Moe Jr., do national African-American radio, okay? Reverend Al Sharpton Show, do Sirius XM, Joe Madison, all that, to build a strong foundation and a relationship nationally with the African-American community, not just in California, not just in New Jersey, but to build a strong national relationship with the African-American community. So then when you announce that you're running, you don't have to then introduce yourself to the African-American community. This is a mistake that they made, okay? So Joe Biden has a lot more support in the African-American community than they do. And it's for a number of reasons. It ain't just because, see, this is a mistake people make when they say, oh, Joe Biden just has support because he was President Obama's vice president. That's not why. That's part of it. That's not the only reason. It's a few reasons. One, now some people may not like this, but in 2019, with the climate we're dealing with, okay, and see, older African Americans understand this better than a lot of millennials because they've been dealing with white people longer. Some people may disagree with this, but you got a lot of older African Americans, and I can't say they're wrong. They know in this climate, running against Donald Trump. Now, it's different if you're not running against. It's different if you're not running against an incumbent. In 2008, Senator Barack Obama was not running against an incumbent. That is a different race. You talking about running against Trump, who has 64 million Twitter followers. I follow Trump on Twitter because I'm in media. I'm part of the media. I have a press pass in my backpack. I'm part of media. I follow a lot of politicians to find out what they're talking about. Trump has 64 million Twitter followers. That's just on Twitter. I'm not even sure how many he has on Facebook. Okay, so you talking about running against somebody like that in the 2020 race? In a 2020 race, a lot of African Americans, especially older African Americans, realize to be the old white man, you're gonna need another old white man. That doesn't mean they don't like Kamala, even though she hadn't forged a relationship with the African American community in general. But see, you gotta understand, older African Americans, see, people think they're dumb. No, they're not dumb. They're more cautious because they understood what it took to get to this point. They've heard all the promises. They've seen all the shiny new objects, things like this. They understand the importance of the civil rights, of the Voting Rights Act of 65 that was gutted by the 2013 U.S. Supreme Court case of Shelby County versus Holder. They understand the impact that policies have on us more so than younger people do. And at the same time, if we want to keep it 100, a lot of millennials are living at home with their parents and their grandparents. A lot of millennials are being financially subsidized by their parents and their grandparents. So a lot of older African Americans, they understand the impact that bad public policies have on them because they're supporting another generation. Now, I'm not saying all millennials. You may be a millennial. If this don't apply to you, you probably know 10 other millennials this applies to. Let's keep it real. Okay? So, so a lot of them realize this. They say, so they realize in this climate, it doesn't mean they don't like Elizabeth Warren. Doesn't mean they don't like Cory Booker, even though Cory Booker it need to do more to reach out to the African-American community. And if you go watch the February, I'm thinking of African-American History Month. If you go watch the December 3rd, 2019 edition of Roland Martin Unfiltered, Roland talks about how he reached out constantly to Senator Cory Booker and Kamala Harris to come on the Tom Joyner Morning Show. And he couldn't get them on. This is before they announced they were running. He couldn't get them on so they could build a relationship. Tom Joyner has 8 million listeners across the country. Tom Joyner has 8 million listeners across the country. So they could build a relationship, and they kept basically blowing them off. Okay? And then also, when we look at Senator Bernie Sanders, this is one of the reasons why when Bernie Sanders ran in 2019, Bernie Sanders didn't have with African-American, with younger people, with millennials, he had more of a following. Older African-Americans, a lot of them were going for that. And see, one of the problems was they were asking the question, how are you going to pay for all these policies? Because older African-Americans are much more practical. They've seen a lot more. They understand more about history than the younger generation. But also, they got more financial responsibility. They're helping support the younger generation. They're helping support millennials. So you talk about all this stuff sounds good. How are you going to pay for all this stuff? How are you going to get this stuff passed through Congress? Okay? So a lot of younger people don't really understand all of that. Because I talk to people, you're talking about, we need to have a protest vote. I'm like, Negro, you out your mind? I said, do you understand what's at stake? Do you understand the policies that President Obama put in place are at stake of being reversed if Trump gets in office? And that's exactly what's happening right now. See, this is why programs like Roland Martin Unfiltered are so important, because it's daily. I can't do daily. I was doing nationally syndicated radio for 5 days a week in 2015 and 2016, especially 2016 during that election. And it's a lot for me to do this every day. I try to do the best I can, but it's a lot for me to do this every day because I wasn't getting paid for radio then. I never got paid. I've been doing radio 10 years. I never got paid for this. That's why we sell the ads. That's why we do donations, sell the DVDs. That helps to support all this stuff. But that's why Roland Martin's show is so important, because he can do it daily. Maybe I'll do radio 5 days a week again, but just like all these other people doing radio, you got to pay me. Because back when I was doing it then, I ain't have a daughter. I have a daughter now, so I can't do it like I was doing it back then. Okay, Ida said yes, we do. Now, what do you mean yes, we do, Ida? I'm not sure what you're referring to. How you doing, Kurt? How you doing, Quincina, Gigi? Just a few of the people watching. All right. So people have to understand this. Because oftentimes it's not just, so a lot of times people say, oh, Democrats take African-Americans for granted. Some African-American Democrats take African-Americans for granted. You got to build those relationships with the community. With the 2016 campaign with Hillary Clinton, one of the mistakes she made, and she was a much better candidate than Donald Trump, because I went to her website, read her 36 policies, went to Donald Trump's website, read his 13 policies. I saw over 100 campaign speeches and interviews that Trump gave, and read the fact checking on that, because there's 8 different fact checking sources that I use. And I saw Hillary Clinton's campaign speeches. She had less, and she did less interviews, and read the fact checking on that. She told about 80% of the time she told the truth, and I forgot what percentage. About 156 statements, about 78% were false for Trump. Dailycause.com, I think it was Daily Cause, had the fact checking on that. But I've got all that. I have file folders on Donald Trump. One of the mistakes she made was in her campaign. is that they were paying 25, 26-year-old staffers to go out into the African-American community to talk to African-Americans about voting for Hillary Clinton, when you need to be paying African-American 25, 26-year-olds to go out to the African-American community and talk to African-Americans. You can't start running ads 3-4 weeks before the election. And you can't ask for African-Americans to volunteer on your staff while you paying white people on your staff. You can't do that. That's just for any campaign. That's just for any campaign. You can't do that. This is some of the things that take place. You can't do that. One of the smart things that Stacey Abrams did, and Democrats need to do this, especially whoever gets the nomination. One of the smart things Stacey Abrams did was she hired like African-American firms who know how to turn out the African-American vote. They're going to send black people into the community to talk to black people. And see, this also deals with the contracts that are involved in these political campaigns, because a lot of times we get locked out of these contracts, okay? And that's why we got to fight for our fair share. It's not just the election. We got to fight for our fair share of these contracts, even with the Democratic Party as well. And I'm neither Democrat nor Republican, but I study policies. Okay, I study policies, I study politics, national politics on a daily basis. All right, so let's continue. How are you doing? It's sad to say, but I don't think the blacks who run these political offices really have the black community, especially in interest. Yeah, it depends upon who they are. Now, and see what we have to do, author, is Irk. Okay, what we have to be cognizant of is bad politicians need to be voted out of office, regardless of race, color. Bad politicians need to be voted out of office, period. And we need to run better people, put them in office. We have the power to do that. Oftentimes, we don't realize our power. We keep listening to people who tell us we don't have power, we can't do this. The reason why many of our people don't fight back is because many of our people don't think they are worth fighting for. Okay. Okay. Ida Boo said, I'm from the older generation. I was agreeing with you. Yeah. All right. So, okay. So we have that. Now let's go to this article here from, okay. So this is the one from NBCnews.com. I'll give you the link to this. What is this here? Okay. This is Kamala Harris announcing she's withdrawn from the race. Okay, Harris, according to the aide, okay, so a senior aide to Harris told NBC News that the senator made the decision to drop out Monday after talking with family and top advisors. Harris, over the weekend, conducted a full audit of the campaign's finances and questioned the sustainability of the cash-strapped campaign. Harris' campaign has not been on the airways for months and had laid off several dozen staffers last month, okay, the month of November. So because I was following this and I'm hearing these different things, so I'm saying, okay, she ain't gonna be in much longer. She's gonna drop out. Cory Booker probably be next. And just in general, and we're at the point now that a lot of these bottom feeders need to just drop out. Yang, Senator Klobuchar, Marianne, well, she ain't even on stage. Marianne Williamson, Tulsi Gabbard. A lot of them need to drop out. Deval Patrick, he ain't gonna be in there too long. He's gonna drop out. He's not gonna be able to raise the money. He doesn't have the connection with the African American community. Okay, so and to me, his to me the pitch of his voice is too high to be president anyway. So I'm just saying, okay. I know it may be a low blow, but the pitch of his voice is too high to be president also, okay? You listen to Barack Obama, you listen to Trump, you listen to Bill Clinton, Ronald Reagan, Jimmy Carter, Richard Nixon, George W. Bush, George H.W. Bush. Well, George H.W. Bush was an exception, but he's white, so, what can you say? But I just think, not only does he not have the policies in place right now, Deval Patrick, most African Americans really don't know who he is, don't know which state he was governor of, anything like that. Okay, so he's just like, you know, African-American man trying to capture the Obama mystique. That's basically what he is to a lot of African Americans. All right, so Harris, according to the aide, did not want to continue to ask supporters to fund the campaign because the current financial situation made Harris feel the path forward to success in Iowa and beyond was no longer possible. I agree. She couldn't see a path forward. I agree with that. Okay, so Harris, the daughter of an Indian mother and Jamaican father, launched her campaign to great fanfare on January 21st. Martin Luther King Jr. Yeah, it's Martin Luther King Jr. Day, January 21st. And then there was, I think there was a big kickoff in February. For some reason that's sticking out in my mind. I know she had like 20,000 people. Days later, she held her first rally in front of a crowd of more than 20,000 people in Oakland, California. In April, she reported raising $12 million in the first quarter, second only to Bernie Sanders, who raised $18 million. Then at the first Democratic debate in June of 2019, she drew notice for attacking former Vice President Joe Biden for his stance on busing and school segregation, okay, or desegregation, however you want to put it. After that, her polling numbers shot into the double digits, including registering a 13% in the national NBC Wall Street Journal poll. But her fundraising began lagging over the summer. She reported in July having raised $11.8 million in the second quarter, trailing South Bend, Indiana Mayor Pete Buttigieg at $24.9 million, Senator Elizabeth Warren, Democrat of Massachusetts, $19.1 million, and Senator Bernie Sanders, who can't make up whether he wants to be a Democrat or independent, okay? Because see, when he's in the Senate, he's an independent. When he wants to run for president, he becomes a Democrat. Let me repeat this. When Sanders is in the Senate, he's an independent. When he wants to run for president, he switches and becomes a Democrat. And then when he goes back to the Senate, see, this is what happened in 2016. The same thing gonna happen here. Bernie Sanders, see, a lot of people thought Bernie Sanders was new. No, Bernie Sanders had been in Congress for 25 years. Okay, he was in the I think he started in 91 in the House of Representatives. He's a former mayor there in Vermont. He started in the House of Representatives, I think it was 91. And yeah, 91. And then in 2007, he went to the US Senate. He'd been in Congress for 25 years. All right. So people that don't follow politics don't know him. I would see Bernie Sanders on MSNBC, but also I would see Bernie Sanders in documentaries like Koch brothers Exposed and ALEC Exposed, ALEC, American Legislative Exchange Council. So I already knew who Bernie Sanders was. When you go to Senate.gov. Senate.gov is the official website of the U.S. Senate, right? Every U.S. senator, there are 100 U.S. senators, they all have a page on Senate.gov. Okay, when you go to Senate.gov, you look at Bernie Sanders, it tells you that it says I for independent. It tells you they're, the party that they're part of. So Sanders was an independent except when he wanted to run for Congress. All right. Then he switches to the Democratic Party. Then when he went back to Congress, then after he didn't get the nomination, he switched back to being an independent. Now he wants to run for president again. Now he wants to be a Democrat. So now I'm neither Democrat nor Republican, but to me, it seems like you can't make up your mind. I mean, if you want to be an independent, run as an independent. Let's go to his page. It's not an endorsement, but I just want to show you something here. And I don't belong to any political party, but I do research. Let's look at this. This is Bernie Sanders' page on Senate.gov. Sanders and Ocasio-Cortez announced the Green New Deal for Public Housing Act. Okay. This is November 14th. Today at 3 p.m. outside U.S. Capitol building, Senator Bernie Sanders, in Independent, Vermont, and Representative Ocasio-Cortez will announce the introduction of the New Deal. the Green New Deal. I want to, let me see, they should have a, let's say, about Bernie. Let me see here. Usually they have like a welcome page or something like this on their page. Because for the, let's see, is this his page? Okay, that's on the home page. It should, usually it has a picture of them and it tells you Bernie's podcast, Senate Budget Committee, Subcommittee, Senate Budget Committee. Let's see here. Okay. Usually there's a page that tells you the affiliation, which party they're part of. About Bernie, legislation, newsroom, services, Vermont. Let's see here, Vermont update. Okay, but in all this, you're going to see it says Bernie Sanders is an independent, even though he's running as a Democrat. So for some Democrats, and I'm neither Democrat nor Republican, but for some Democrats, they have a problem with that. Because it seemed like, now, even though he does vote with Democrats the majority of the time, when the votes take place in the Senate, he does caucus with them the majority of the time, but a lot of them have a problem. It's like, wait a second, if you want to be an independent in the Senate, you should run as an independent. All right, now let me go to this other article here. How's everybody doing? Let's see here. Where are we? All right, I want to go to this other article from Janelle Ross. Let me see, what did I figure? Okay, where am I here? Okay, following the debate. Okay, so the debate in that second debate. Following the debate, her polling number dropped for the single to the single digits and never fully recovered. Let's see. Okay, but her fundraising began lagging after over the summer. Okay, and she was put on defensive on healthcare at the second Democratic debate at the end of July. Okay, so when she went out to Biden, that was the first Democratic debate. Second Democratic debate at the end of July, she was put on defensive on healthcare. All right. Following that debate, her polling numbers dropped to the single digits and never fully recovered. Amid those problems, Senator Kamala Harris' campaign reorganized, laying off some staffers in early states to focus its resources and attention on Iowa. Okay, she says all this stuff was banking on Iowa, but you got to have money to be able to make it to Iowa. You got to have money for campaign ads, literature, all different types of things like this, TV ads, radio, etc. The latest Real Clear Politics average of recent polling showed Senator Kamala Harris with just 3.4% support nationally and just 3.3% and 2.7% backing in the early voting states of Iowa and New Hampshire, respectively. Competitors immediately weighed in on Harris' exit. Okay, so we talked about that. Biden said he had mixed emotions about her exit because she is really a solid person and loaded with talent. He didn't respond to questions about whether he would consider her as a vice presidential candidate if he were to win the presidential nomination. Senator Amy Klobuchar, Democrat from Minnesota, who should drop out the race as well, praised Harris in a tweet, calling her a good friend and incredibly strong public servant. All right. Okay, so, and a lot of people saying she'll be back again. She may run again in 2024. Some people say she'll make a good attorney general. Some people are hoping she is picked to run as vice president, what have you, okay? But I want to look at this other article from NBCnews.com as well. And News1.com has a good one also. I want to go to this one here. This is about an African-American woman, Janelle Ross. because the first one, that was by, who was that by? Adam Edelman and Jonathan Allen and Ali Vitale, okay? That's for NBC News. Let's look at this one here. With Senator Kamala Harris' exit, Democrats can't avoid a tough conversation about diversity. The front runner list is very white and very male and very senior, said Laura Brown, who teaches campaign strategy. Well, yeah, but there's some problems in the campaigns of Senator Kamala Harris and Cory Booker. There's some problems prior to running, and it's a money thing. So if you're African American and you like both of them, you support both of them, then if you ain't donating any money, then that's part of the problem. So when Senator Kamala Harris called off her campaign for the Democratic presidential nomination on Tuesday, she was the top-ranked non-white candidate in the race. Her departure left Democrats, the nation's most diverse political party, facing the prospect of a December debate stage filled only with white candidates, one of them a self-financed billionaire. Then you have Representative Tulsi Gabbard, who represents a district in Hawaii, and businessman Andrew Yang stand close to qualifying. Two other candidates of color, Senator Cory Booker and Julian Castro, remain in the race, but are unlikely to appear in the debate. The reasons for the collapse of Harris' campaign are many. She was less than sure-footed when describing her policy positions. She seemed torn between the moderate and progressive wings of the party and struggled to effectively fundraise, strategize, or resolve internal strife in her campaign. Still, she represented the hopes of many who wanted to see a more diverse field of candidates this presidential election, and her exit leaves the Democratic Party with a striking demographic problem. There are no Black women left in a primary race controlled by a party that has relied on African-American women and has a critical voting bloc, particularly in recent elections. Now, once again, so here's my perspective on this. Whether I'm not concerned about the race of the candidate. I'm concerned about their policies, who has the best chance of beating Donald Trump. Because all this other stuff, if they lose and Trump gets reelected, all this other stuff goes out the window. So at this point, and we're like 3 months away from Iowa, whether the debate stage is diverse and all that stuff, that really ain't the big issue for me. My issue is one, beating Trump, two, other policies. All that other stuff, that's secondary, and that's secondary and third and fourth. So because a white candidate, African American, because here's the thing. If we go back, I think it was the first debate, Marianne Williamson was the only one to mention reparations, and she's white. Kamala Harris didn't mention reparations. Cory Booker didn't mention reparations. The candidate mentioned reparations, if I remember correctly, that first debate, Marianne Williamson was white all the way to the end, all the way down to the end. She mentioned reparations and she's white. Senator Elizabeth Warren, she talked about, I can't remember which debate, but one of the things Senator Elizabeth Warren talks about is affordable child care, but she talks about the infant mortality rate of African-American children. So you can have a white candidate who talks about issues that pertain to the African-American community. They just have to be the right candidate. They have to have the right platform. You can have an African-American candidate that doesn't talk about issues pertaining to the African-American community. So at this point, I ain't concerned about diversity. That don't mean nothing to me. I'm looking at their platform. I'm looking at their policies. And how do those policies impact African Americans? That's the most important thing. So out of a massive Democratic presidential field, the 4 people considered frontrunners are white. 3 of the 4 are male, and all but 1 are over 70 or 70 years old or older. So the frontrunner list is very white and very male and very senior, said Laura Brown, director of the Graduate School of Political Management at George Washington University. With Kamala Harris gone, the only Black woman in the race, there's no way, just no way to avoid this conversation about race and representation, about equity. I don't think the front runners of the Democratic Party will be able to dodge the conversation, end quote. Well, okay, let me continue here, and then we'll dig deeper into this. So after Kamala Harris' decision became public, She the People, which is a political organization dedicated to amplifying the voice and influence of women of color in American politics, praised Senator Kamala Harris and criticized the American political system. Amy Allison, who founded She the People, said in a statement, "The Democratic field became much less diverse today. I had hoped that she would be able to recapture some of that early excitement. As a Black woman, I know from personal experience that Kamala has to work 3 times as hard as some of the other candidates in this race to get half as far," end quote. Right, and then I understand that. Harris is not, so the article goes on to say, Harris is not the first African-American woman to seek the White House. In 1972, Shirley Chisholm became the first African-American candidate for a major party's presidential nomination, the first woman to seek the Democratic Party's presidential nod, and the first woman to appear in an American presidential debate. Shirley Chisholm was already the first Black woman elected to Congress. But while Shirley Chisholm's presidential campaign was always understood as a long shot, an outsider's bid for the ultimate insider's job, Harris entered the race with the kind of credentials that prompted many political prognosticators to consider her a top-tier candidate. So Senator Kamala Harris had been a prosecutor in a major city and the attorney general of one of the country's largest states, as well as the first African-American woman to hold both roles. And I think that is California is the largest state. California is the most populous state in the union. California also has 55 electoral college votes as well. Okay, just for those who keep track of the electoral college, you know, California has 55 electoral college votes also. So Shirley Chisholm was Shirley Chisholm was already the first African-American woman elected to Congress. But while Shirley Chisholm's presidential campaign was always understood as a long shot and outsiders bid for the ultimate insider's job, Harris entered the race with the kind of credentials that prompted many political prognosticators to consider her a top-tier candidate. So Harris had been a prosecutor in a major city and the attorney general of one of the country's largest states, as well as the first African-American woman to hold both roles. Then she won a U.S. Senate seat in 2016 and built a fundraiser network and a bank of political supporters that many presumed would eventually include a former president. Had Senator Kamala Harris made it through the primary, some of those resume features might have helped her excite and engage African-American voters and women of all races, Laura Brown said. Okay, but see, here's the mistake with that. She and Cory Booker did not build the foundational relationship with the African-American community prior to running. So majority of African-Americans didn't really know who they were. You had to build that relationship prior to running. And you had, because President Obama was the first, you had a lot of people who said that if an African-American candidate runs again for president, they're going to have to be more than just Black. They're going to have to present something tangible, things like this. So Kamala Harris did have a Black agenda. Most African Americans probably don't know it, especially ones complaining saying she didn't have a Black agenda. So I don't know where you got that from. You go to her website, it's there. KamalaHarris.org. The other thing here is bad information on social media. And people listen to these simple Simon Ass people have no clue what they're talking about. And when you have bad information, you make stupid decisions. Your thoughts create feelings, your feelings create actions, and behaviors, and behaviors create results. Who's controlling your circumference of awareness? When you have bad information, you make stupid ass decisions. So Kamala Harris' very presence in the race was often described as a kind of treatment, as a kind of testament to the nature of 21st century America and the modern Democratic Party, one where African-American voters are recognized and significant voting bloc, and a significant voting bloc, with African-American women the central component. Harris' campaign was imperfect, but it was also very likely hampered by the ways that sexism and racism shape American policies, said Andra Gillespie, a political scientist at Emory University who studies Black political behavior. Now, that's all true. She ran a poor campaign. She had internal problems with the campaign. But also, she's dealing with sexism and she's dealing with racism as well. And she's dealing with a number of issues, even from the African-American community, backlash from some people in the African-American community. So she's dealing with a number of different things. If she had when she announced January 21st, 2019, she was running, if right from the start, she put out a criminal justice reform program, being that she was the Attorney General of California and she's dealing with issues in her record. And her record was mixed. Really, if you want to be honest, it was really mixed. There were some diversionary programs. There were some good things she did, some bad things she did in California. Okay. A lot of people don't want to be honest about the record. They just want to attack the negative and don't talk about any positives. They don't want to be honest. But if she put out a criminal justice reform program to help control the narrative from the start, that would have tamped down a lot of the negative criticism about her record in California. But she didn't do that. Okay. But she didn't do that. And it backfired on her. Okay. And the other thing was, and I talked about this, I got to find that, I have to find that clip. When I talked about, it seems like she's Black, but only when it's convenient. I'm not sure Kamala Harris is Black, but it seems like only when it's convenient. Oftentimes when she was on MSNBC, she didn't talk about an African-American agenda. She would talk about a Black agenda on Tom Joyner. She would talk about a Black agenda on The Breakfast Club. I'm not saying only talk about a Black agenda, but like when she's on MSNBC, things like this being interviewed, right? It was hard to figure out for people who are questioning whether she's Black or not, things like this. When you're not talking about a Black agenda and really how these policies will impact African Americans, even though you do have a Black agenda on your website, you're not really taking advantage of this media time that you have, especially when you don't have money for campaign ads. Now, I do understand the first caucus is Iowa. That's February 2020. Iowa's like 92% white. New Hampshire, overwhelmingly white. But South Carolina, 60% of the people who vote Democratic in South Carolina are African Americans. But when you are on MSNBC, when you're on CNN, things like this, right? You're reaching African Americans all across the country. So these are different mistakes. If she runs again, she probably won't make these same mistakes. Hopefully not. Hopefully she'll spend the next 4 years building a relationship with the African American community if she wants to run again. I mean, but she should do it anyway, because you remember the Congressional Black Caucus. But two, especially she wants to run again. Harris' campaign was imperfect, but it was also very likely hampered by the ways that sexism and racism shape American politics. It's the same as the Clinton campaign of 2060. Andra Gillespie said, "We can't say there was not sexism, but also she should have campaigned in Michigan. Okay. In 2016, it was sexism. It was Russian interference. It was Republican voter suppression. Should have campaigned in Michigan, but you have a confluence. You have a confluence of things, and African Americans were targeted for voter suppression, not just by Republicans, but also by Russians. There was a concerted effort by the Internet Research Agency, which is from Russia, from the Kremlin, to target African Americans with a disinformation campaign. They were targeting Americans in general, but specifically African Americans with a disinformation campaign. Okay, if you read the State of Black America report, State of Black America report 2019 from the National Urban League, they break this down. If you read volume 1 of the Mueller report, which deals with the Russian intervention, they talk about how African Americans were targeted in the Mueller report. You can go to State of Black America, I think it's State of Black America.com, or what is it? stateofblackamerica.org. I'll give you the website because I have all this stuff here. Where is that? I saw it recently. Yeah, but and I have some of my previous videos. I deal with this. Here we go. Some of my previous videos I deal with how African Americans were targeted in its 2016 campaign with a disinformation campaign, and Russians are going to do it again in 2020. Also, the U.S. Senate intelligence report that just came out deals with this as well. This is State of Black America Report 2019. State of Black America Report 2019. Getting to equal, united, not divided. And this deals with foreign election interference. One of the things they talk about, one of the things they really focus on in here is foreign election interference as well. They're talking about from Russia and a disinformation campaign that took place. This is the executive summary. Page 10, foreign election interference. Okay, check this out at, what's their website? The State of Black America, just stateofblackamerica.com, it'll come up. Okay, so among issues that face Senator Kamala Harris, difficulty securing widespread support from African-American voters who historically have sought to support the least offensive candidate who is most likely to win. Black voters have largely backed former Vice President Joe Biden, the best known of the candidates in the race. At the same time, now here's the other thing. I forgot to tell you this. Here's the other thing, especially older African-American voters. See, people think, oh, people voting for Joe Biden just because he was Barack Obama's vice president. That's not the only reason. What's the closest position to being president? Being vice president. So especially older African-American voters, they're looking at who has the most experience, who's best qualified to be president, who navigated the country through an economic disaster, okay? Who helped get bills passed in the Senate. They're looking at who has experience governing a country. They're looking at who has the best experience. See, these are the other factors a lot of people don't talk about. So this is why Buttigieg ain't gonna get it. South Bend, Indiana is what, like 100,000 people? That's like the most people he's had to govern over. So when you talk to older African Americans, they're dealing with a number of things. It's not just, oh, he was President Barack Obama's vice president. No, you're not understanding you're not understanding the ramifications. They're looking at a number of things. Black voters have largely backed former Vice President Joe Biden, the best known of the candidates in the race. At the same time, Harris came across as unsure and unprepared at key moments in the race, such as just after her debate stage tangle with Joe Biden over busing to integrate public schools. But like other women in the race, she also faced more questions about the details of her policy positions than male candidates. Okay, Andra Brown said. So that deals with the sexism. And this is why I said all the candidates need to be held to the same standard. Okay, don't just ask for a black agenda from the black candidates and not ask for one from the white candidates. They need to be held to the same standard. So now Harris is in the odd position of withdrawing from the race when other candidates who poll even lower than she did remain. So a lot of these other low bottom feeders need to drop out too. Okay, especially the ones not going to be on the debate stage. A lot of them need to drop out because it's not going to get better for you. It's not going to get better for you after this. Her absence raises both immediate and long-term questions for candidates, voters, and the Democratic Party. Andra Gillespie said, other candidates will vie for her voters, but they may not immediately seek her endorsement since she was faring so poorly in the race before her departure. There may be increased pressure on bottom tier candidates to withdraw and consolidate the race, and they should, because Trump has raised over $100 million, okay, for his 2020 campaign. And you have Republicans who are going to vote for him. You have Republicans largely focusing on one candidate, even though there are 3 Republican candidates that are not getting a whole lot of coverage now. Okay, Governor Bill Weld and former Governor Mark Sanford. And there's one other one, I forgot the other one. So Republicans will coalesce around, in general, all Republicans don't like Trump. And some Republicans have left and gone to and become independents as well. But Republicans in general will coalesce around one candidate while Democrats are still going through the process. And you haven't had the first caucus yet. And you got too many damn people in the race. Just too many damn people in the race. All these bottom feeders need to drop out. You're just taking up space and campaign dollars. Okay? And you're just a distraction. You know, you in 3-4 months, you're going to be toast anyway. So you might as well just drop out now. So then there's the potential impact on Joe Biden. Many of Joe Biden's debate stage gaffes, the busing discussion in the first debate and his failure in the November debate to remember Senator Harris' existence when he said he had the support of the only black woman to serve in Senate, referring to former Senator Karen Mosley Braun, were in some way connected to Harris, so her departure could benefit him, okay? But once again, he meant the first, not the only, because he endorsed Senator Kamala Harris. People who follow politics know that he endorsed Senator Kamala Harris when she ran for the Senate in 2016. So did Barack Obama. I am wondering how gaffe-prone he will be or appear with her off the stage, Gillespie said. Okay, now if we're going to talk about gaffe-prone, then we have to look at Trump also. In the final seconds of a video message dispatched by Senator Kamala Harris on Twitter, Harris said the end of her campaign need not extinguish the fight for key issues with many political observers, which many political observers had described as difficult to discern while the campaign remained operative. Quote, let's keep fighting for the America we believe in, she said, an America free of injustice, an America we know can be unburdened by what has been. Okay, so that's from Janelle Ross, and she's a reporter for NBC Black, which is the African-American platform for NBC News. This article here is, with Senator Kamala Harris' exit, Democrats can't avoid a tough conversation about diversity. All right, now, for me, it ain't about diversity, it's about the policies. Okay, how do your policies impact the African-American community? All right, and once again, a black agenda is not what the candidates give us, that's what we give the candidates. That is a standard that we present. That's a measuring stick that we present to the candidates, so we can understand how to measure the candidates and who will best benefit us. But that takes self-determination to be able to put together a Black agenda. All right, so let me give you this article here. How you doing, Sherwin? Let me give you this article here. Okay, there we go. It populated. All right. And then there was one article from news1.com as well that I saw from Bruce C.T. Wright. Kamala Harris abruptly suspends her presidential campaign. The information dealing with the impeachment report, I'm going to do a separate broadcast on that today as well, dealing with that. Okay. So stay tuned for that. African-American business owners, supposed to name your business here on the thread of the broadcast. We'll let you know how you can advertise with the African History Network. A special promotion going on right now. Email us at customerservice@africanhistorynetwork.com. Customerservice@africanhistorynetwork.com. So if you are looking to buy a new or used car, visit Car Marshall. Click on the link below, and Car Marshall will help you find and negotiate buying a new vehicle. They have over 100,000 new and used cars from dealers. Car Marshall, you shop, we negotiate. Car Marshall, you shop, we negotiate. All right, let's continue. So we'll give you this one here, cited in basically all the information I talked about already. Okay. Kamala Harris abruptly suspends her presidential campaign. This is from news1.com. You can check this out also. All right. Okay, if you like this type of information, you can donate to the African History Network, paypal.me/the AHN show, paypal.me/the AHN show. Also at our website, africanhistorynetwork.com, africanhistorynetwork.com. Click on the yellow donate button. That helps us keep doing the research, stay on the air, keep broadcasting. We have a lot of bundle packs as well of DVD lectures. We have The Africans Who Were Here Before Columbus, 8 DVD bundle pack. The Africans Who Were Here Before Columbus, 8 DVD bundle pack. It includes the lecture from Dr. Ivan Van Sertima, They Came Before Columbus, a double lecture I did with Dr. David Imhotep, who wrote the book, The First Americans Were Africans, Documented Evidence. Includes Christopher Columbus and the African Holocaust, lecture by Dr. John Henry Clark, some other presentations as well. Okay, that's available right now at africanhistorynetwork.com. It's on sale $50. The Africans Who Were Here Before Columbus, 8 DVD bundle pack. All right, guys, look, hey, we have to get out of here. Remember, the African History Network, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and throughout the world, because right now it's corrects wrong behavior. What you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you and get away with is based upon what you think about yourself. What you think about yourself is based upon what you have been taught about yourself. What you've been taught about yourself is based upon everything you've read, heard, and seen about yourself. So when you control the radius of a man's thoughts, you can control the circumference of his actions, because the mind can't do or teach what it doesn't know. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. And we'll talk to you next time. Peace.